Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us here this evening at Wixham's for our virtual open evening. I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is Lorraine Shorey, and I am the SENDco assistant here at Wixham's Academy, and I'm managing the learning support department for our fabulous SENDco, Lucy Bonforte, who is currently on maternity leave. After we have gone through some information on the SEND department this evening, we will have the opportunity for a question and answer session. And I believe you get to type your questions in the question bar, and then we will talk about them afterwards. Okay, so in case you weren't sure what SENDco stands for, it stands for Special Educational Needs Coordinator. And that person's role is to coordinate provision for any young people with special educational needs or disabilities. The SENDco also carries out annual reviews for students with education, health and care plans, known as EHCPs, and also work with families and other professionals to gather evidence in support of applying for assessments for EHCPs. So this is where your journey starts with us. It's obviously really disappointing not being able to invite you all in to see our fabulous facilities here. However, we do hope that these talks go some way to helping you make that very important decision on choosing the right school for your son or daughter. Whilst we're not able to open our doors to you all, if your child has an education, health or care plan, a significant learning need or disability, or severe anxiety, I would really encourage you to give me a call to discuss further. For young people with EHCPs, applications to join Wixham's Academy will come through the SEND team at Bedford Borough Council, and we will meet with you to discuss your child's needs and their plan, and to make sure that we're the right environment for you and your son or daughter. Planning for your child's move to Wixham's Academy starts many months before September, with discussions between us, with yourselves and primary schools, so that we can begin to get to know you and your child and any additional special need that they may have. Schools give us a lot of information about the successful support techniques and strategies already in place for your child, so we can try and continue with those as much as we can once your child joins us. Transition for a young person with extra needs will be tailored to your child, and there will be extra opportunities for your son or daughter to visit us before they start with us in September. This year was obviously very different with all the restrictions that COVID put in place. However, we're able to produce a video tour, live talks, and a bespoke learning support booklet to help young people to start to become familiar with the Academy and the staff here. Here at Wixham's, our core principle is to inspire and challenge all of our students to achieve exceptional things and develop key skills and qualities which will serve them throughout their lives. As an inclusive mainstream academy, the happiness and progress of every student is monitored, ensuring that barriers to learning are quickly identified so that any additional support can be implemented. That begins with quality first teaching and then could extend to things like interventions, support from our learning support assistants, known as LSAs, outside agencies coming in to work with the young person, specialist teacher input, educational psychology assessments and strategies, specialist passports detailing the needs of our young person and ideas to help them, or specialist input from Bedford Borough's early help support. Wellbeing is a major factor throughout the Academy, and we are very fortunate to have a fantastic pastoral team. Each year group has its own head of year who ensure that any issues around wellbeing are identified and addressed quickly so that support can be put in place. We also have a school counsellor, drama therapy, and embedded mental health practitioners who are in school weekly. Alongside this, we're able to run small groups for social and emotional mental health and one-to-one mentoring. The Learning Support Department is headed by our fabulous SENDco Lucy, with myself as her assistant and 12 committed and passionate LSAs. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about them. Amongst our team, we have a significant amount of experience. As a team, we have degrees in psychology, drama, management studies, careers guidance, education and art, history and politics, and a master's in engineering, work design and ergonomics. Two of the team are also completing degrees currently in maths and theatre studies. Our experienced LSAs have amazing backgrounds as chartered accountants, professional dancers, 2 swimming teachers, 1 primary school teacher, 7 years in the Navy in communications, a senior SEND officer, a research scientist, and people running their own dance and drama groups, and a florist and a hairdresser. So as you can see, the amount of life experience that our LSAs bring to the classroom is vast. And if you add up all the years that we've been working in education across primary, secondary and special schools, it comes to over 150 years. Some of our staff team are also parents to young people with special educational needs themselves, and so have first-hand experience of the difficulties that you may be facing and fully understand your concerns. The LSAs work in classes across the academy, as well as one-to-one and small group work. They also run interventions, carry out screeners for difficulties such as dyslexia or comprehension, and some of them also run clubs at school. Currently, we have dance, textiles and BSL being run by LSAs. LSAs also run sensory circuits, which is an active physical and fun activity where students move around a room accessing different activities, which can include jumping, skipping, spinning and bouncing. These activities can stimulate the central nervous system in preparation for learning, help the brain and body to work together, help give an awareness of the young person and where their body is in time and space, and increase the ability to regulate sensory input. LSAs can also support students in tutor time, which is form time every morning, and also in prep time, which is a compulsory extra half hour twice a week in school for study and homework. We are really fortunate to have a large learning space on the top floor called the Learning Support Centre, where many of these one-to-one or small group activities can take place. It's also a space where some of our students who find the lunch hall too overwhelming can come for their breaks and lunch times. We also have an area called the Sanctuary, where students who need rest breaks or are just finding things too overwhelming in the classroom are able to go for short periods, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, to have some time out and regroup before going back into lesson. The Sanctuary is staffed by our pastoral team, our heads of year and our counsellor Don. All of our wonderful learning support team, colleagues, spaces, resources and access to outside agencies enable us to strive to get the best for our students with additional needs through a combination of early identification of SEN, supported transition, high quality teaching, targeted intervention and excellent communication. We believe that all children and young people are entitled to an education that enables them to make progress so they're able to achieve their best, become confident individuals living fulfilling lives and making a successful transition to adulthood, whether that's through employment, training or further and higher education. I really look forward to chatting to you further in the future and meeting your children as we hopefully welcome them into the Wixham's Academy family. Thank you so much for listening. I'm really happy to take any questions that you may have now about learning support or supporting your child with additional needs. Thank you. Okay, we've got a question. How many children in the school are under the SEND register? That's a really good question, actually. So we currently have 4 year groups at Wixham's Academy. Being a new school, we only opened 4 years ago. So we currently have years 7, 8, 9 and 10. I would imagine off the top of my head at the moment there are, obviously the SEND register doesn't just cover students that have EHCPs, it's a whole range of needs as well. So we probably have about 120, 150 probably on the SEN register. Thank you for your question. Okay, we have another question. What additional support do you offer to children with SEN, with special educational needs? It's quite a tricky one to answer because it really depends on what the need of that young person is. If it's something like dyslexia, then we have the whole school staff are aware of children with dyslexia needs and we use green exercise books or coloured overlays. So it really does depend on the need. As I mentioned, that we have fantastic LSAs that work across the school in different classrooms and they are able to support children based on their needs. So it really does depend on the need. Thank you. Okay, we have another question. If a child applying to the school with learning difficulties, what support can be provided as one-to-one? Is one-to-one possible? I think one-to-one is possible, but it very much depends again on the child. If a child comes to us with an education, health and care plan, and that plan states that it must be one-to-one support, then that is what will happen. What often happens is that a child might be in a class with someone else with needs as well, and they will share an LSA, and that helps us to build independence for those young people as well. Thank you very much for your question. We have a question here. What if your child doesn't have an EHCP? So not many children do have EHCPs. We still support children with SEND needs, with extra needs, whether they have them or not. We're a very inclusive school and we want everybody to do their best here. So if your child has a need and doesn't have an EHCP, we will still talk with you about what the additional need is and find the best way to support them. Thank you for your question. Oh, another question here. Okay, so does each year group have its own timeout areas for pupils to relax? So before we had the issues with COVID, we had the sanctuary where students could go if they needed that extra time. There are various areas throughout the school where children can go at break time. At the moment with COVID, it's very difficult because we're trying to keep people apart. And I'm really hoping that by the time your young people are in school with us, that won't be an issue anymore. So there will be designated areas for those students to go. Okay, another question. What experience do you have working with and supporting children with language difficulties? Quite a bit, I would say. Again, it probably depends on what that language difficulty is, but we do talk really well with primary schools, with outside agencies. We have a lot of good links with other agencies to support the children that have difficulties here. So again, it really depends on what the difficulty is, but every difficulty that a child has here, we look into quite deeply. Thank you for your question. Any more questions I can help anybody with? Please do email in to me. I did pop my email up. I'm not sure if you saw it, but it's lshawry@wixhamsacademy.co.uk. If you've got a question, if you want to give me a bit more detail and you'd like me to go into something with a bit more detail, then please do email me or give me a call, phone Wixhams and just be put through to me and I can discuss things further with you. That's no problem. Okay, we have another question here, which says, we are currently applying for an EHCP for our youngest daughter. There is a significant gap between her and her peers. How big is too big? That's quite a tricky question. It really comes down to the individual, what support has already been put in place for that child. Whilst we're monitoring that support, what are the reasons that they are still not making progress? And then from that, we will judge how we can get the EHCP. Hopefully that answers that question. That's a really tricky question, a really good one. Okay, there's another question here. Do you offer an induction package for children with SEND? Yes, we do. On a normal day, we would have children with special educational needs come and visit us more than I don't want to say normal children, but that's what I'm going to say, normal children. We have really good links with the primary schools. At the moment, we're doing virtual assemblies and virtual things to make a link that way. With COVID this year, we also made a bespoke learning support booklet with all the photos in of the key members of the team, and we sent that off, and it was bespoke. So if there was a particular area that we needed to give more information on, we were able to do that. That went out. We made video tours. We pretty much did everything we could do to make that transition as easy as possible for those students. Obviously, it's a very difficult time for them, especially when they can't get into school. But if your child needs photos or a video, we will do photos and a video. We have offered a few tours as well, and that might be something that we can still do. But I say just give me a call or drop me an email and we can discuss further. It's no problem. Thank you for your question. Just had a comment pop up that says, thank you, very informative. You're very welcome. As I say, please do email in if you have any further questions or want to discuss anything further. It's not a problem. It looks like we might be done on the questions. Just hang on a moment, see if there's any more. Oh, there's a question. Do you offer visual support for children with learning difficulties, and what visual strategies do you use in school? Yes, we can offer visual support. Again, it depends on what the child has been using previously. If they were using a particular system in their primary school, then we would definitely look to carry that on into secondary, whilst obviously also trying to build in independence for that child. So yeah, whatever they were using in their previous school, we would be able to take on and use here as well. I wouldn't say that we use visual timelines as much in the sense of pictures, but certainly we might have visual timelines where it's more of a written thing, but we can do things like that. I do actually have some staff with me this evening. I've got two fabulous LSAs with me and the principal is with me as well. I'm not sure if they have any comments or any questions that they think haven't been covered this evening they'd like to throw in. They're shaking their heads.
You've done a great job.
I think we might be done on the questions. There's nothing else seems to be coming through. Okay, so I think we are done on the questions. As I said a few times, please do drop me an email if you have any further questions. I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'm happy for us to finish. So thank you very much for joining me this evening.